Hello everyone. Thank you for watching this video. This video is our presentation on Key Stage 1 Maths at Newland Spring Primary, and we're going to be talking about the maths curriculum that we do at Newland Spring in Key Stage 1, and also some tips and tricks for times tables towards the end of the presentation as well. So the national curriculum changed in 2014, and basically the curriculum changed in terms of we have higher expectations now in Key Stage 1, and we became a mastery school in 2014 as well, which means that everybody has the chance to master the knowledge of number and mathematics, and we don't leave anybody behind. Everyone is successful, and we put in a lot of interventions and support for children who are finding maths a bit tricky. So that's our kind of curriculum in terms of maths at Newland Spring. We are a mastery school. So on the screen here, I have put the objectives for year 1 on the left and year 2 on the right. And I'm just going to let you read them because there's quite a lot there. But as you can see, as you're reading through, year 1 is very much learning numbers up to 20 at first, and then slowly they build up to 50 and then 100. They're counting in 2s, 5s and 10s. And in year 2, we build on that really, but we're now reading and writing numbers to 100 in numerals and in words as well. And they're able to manipulate that number, so they can play with the number up to 100. And also they know the place value of a 2-digit number, so they understand the 1s and the 10s in a 2-digit number. Then if we move on to addition and subtraction, so year 1 is very much moving up to 20, building up to 20, so they can add and subtract within 20, and they can solve problems from addition and subtraction as well. And then there's a big jump in year 2 where they need to know number facts up to 100. So they're subtracting and adding up to 100. And then they start to play around with 3-digit numbers as well. They also start to learn the link between addition and subtraction, and we call that the inverse. For example, we know that 2 add 3 is 5. And then the inverse of that is that they can do 5 take away 3 equals 2. And they play around with that. And that's a big area that comes up a lot in the Key Stage 1 SATs, which I'll talk about a bit later. Then we move on to multiplication and division. So in year 1, they know the words multiplication and division through lots of and sharing. But in year 2, we really build upon that. So we start our times tables in year 2. So they only need to know their 2s, 5s and 10s. But also they should be able to times different numbers together. They should be able to share different numbers, but they also start using the division sign more. And then that links into fractions. So they understand what a third, a quarter, 2 quarters, which is a half, and 3 quarters are, and they can find a fraction of an amount. And that's the link with division there as well. And then we move on to measure. So in year 1, it's very practical. So they're weighing things. They're finding the capacity of a container. They're measuring lengths and heights. We learn about different coins, and they use time language like dates, weeks, months, and they start to learn the time up till past, and they can use a clock face for that. For year 2, again, it jumps up massively. So we start learning about meters and centimeters. We learn about temperature. We start using the greater and less than signs to compare different measures as well. We're using pounds and pence, and they are adding and subtracting different money combinations, and they can solve time problems as well. And they have to be able to tell the time in year 2 up to 5 minutes. Which again is a big jump from year 1. And then we move on to shape, so geometry. So in year 1, they should be able to name some 2D and 3D shapes, and they can use different turn language as well. So they can use half turns, quarter turns, and a 3/4 turn, which is quite tricky. And then in year 2, they build upon that. So they start to use language like sides, edges, vertices, corners, and they should be able to describe a 2D shape and a 3D shape using that language. They also start to look at patterns using shapes as well. And they look at statistics. So they look at tally charts and block diagrams as well. And they can answer questions about those diagrams. So that's the curriculum at Newland Spring for Key Stage 1. So as you can see, the Year 2 curriculum is quite trickier than it was when we were at school. And that's because of the new curriculum, as I said, it is a lot harder. And we do expect all children to master those objectives. And the reason why we do all this is because in Year 2, we have the Key Stage 1 SATs test. So this tends to happen towards the end of the year. And there's different parts to the SATs test. So we start off with an arithmetic paper, which is basically number. And the children don't have a lot of time for this, but these are some of the questions that they would be expected to answer. They can use jottings to work it out. They can show their working. But for the paper, they actually only have 20 minutes. And there are a lot of questions on addition and subtraction. And we are teaching the children addition and subtraction through something called a number line. So hopefully, if you have a look at our calculation policy, which is on our website, it will show you what a number line looks like. And also our parent booklets that are just coming out will show you some resources as well. But the children have been taught to use a number line for addition and subtraction. If you want to teach them the column method, you can as well. And there are lots and lots of questions on fractions as well. So we do a lot of fractions in Year 2. So that's 20 minutes. So that's really, really quick. The reasoning paper is more problem solving. And this is, again, mastery. So mastery is not just lots of practice at number, but it's about being able to describe what you're doing and use it in a problem. And again, we want all children to be successful with this. So this paper is 35 minutes long, so it's a bit longer, and it starts with 5 oral questions at the beginning. So children have to be really good at following instructions and listening. They are allowed a ruler, and that is really important because a ruler is actually a number line. So the children can use a ruler to jump on and jump back as well, which is super. Here are a few examples of some reasoning questions. So as you can see, they have to do a bit of working out. So the one on the left-hand side, they have to work out what the number line is going up in, and then they can work out that missing box. And then the question on the right-hand side, we've got some different skills there. So we would encourage them to draw the carrots and then use that drawing to work out the answer to the question, and that's why it says show your working. So that could be them drawing the carrots. It could also be a formal method as well, but we do teach the children how to solve these types of questions. Also, here is some more. So children are using the inverse on the question on the left-hand side, and right-hand side, they're using their knowledge of shape as well. So because of the SATs, we're not just going to throw them in there, we are preparing them. We don't tend to tell the children too much about the SATs in Year 2 because they're so young. We tend to call them quizzes, so they don't get upset by them. So the things that we're doing in school, we're teaching them in very small steps. And again, this is mastery. We're keeping all the children together. We're not leaving anybody behind. And we're addressing any misconceptions or any areas where the children are struggling, and we're filling those so that we're keeping everyone together. We are doing lots of fluency practice, but like I said, we're doing reasoning and problem solving as well. We are assessing all of the time. We're checking on the children and making sure that we're not leaving anyone behind, but also that we are stretching children as well. We know there's going to be some children that find some of these questions quite easy. So that's where the problem solving is really good for stretching and diving deep into the objective. We have half-termly tests as well, and we also have brilliant learning support assistants who are there to support, but also to challenge as well. And then, like I said, we've got interventions happening for any gaps that we find. These aren't set groups, these are very fluid, to make sure that if anyone needs support, that we are there. And also we do teach specific SATS techniques, so how to complete a paper in the quickest and best way, but we call them quizzes. So things that you can do at home, try not to do the practice tests if you can, because if they go home and they learn all the answers and come into school and get full marks at a practice test, we're going to think that they don't need as much support. So try to avoid the tests if you can. But things that you can do, we have actually produced a parent booklet for year 1 and year 2. And these will be coming out shortly. And in these booklets are lots of games that you can play with your children to support them with their maths at home. Also on the Newland Spring Primary website, we have under curriculum a maths section. And in that section, you can find the calculation policy and you can have a look at the methods we use there as well. Things that are most important, I would say, are number bonds. So that's the numbers that you add together to make 10 and the numbers that you add together to get to 20. And children should know these off by heart. Times tables in year 2, so that's the 2 times table, the 5 times table, and the 10 times table. Telling the time up to 5 minutes because that's quite a tricky objective. Anytime you're at home, dinner time, home time, homework time, just keep referring to the clock and get the children to try and tell the time to you. Sing songs with your children. Again, there's some ideas in the booklets as well. If you're out shopping, get them to weigh the apples or bananas that you buy. And particularly hit the button is a really good game for times tables as well. So here's an example of the parent booklet that you will be receiving very shortly. So this is the year 1 version. If there is a picture on the booklet, please click on it because hopefully that will take you to a game or resource that you can use. And here is an example of the year 2 booklet as well. So as you can see, there's a picture here and that will be hyperlinked and that will take you to some support for that. Here is just a snapshot of our calculation policy, and that runs from foundation stage into year 6. So if you want to have a look at that, if your child comes home with a method and you're not quite sure what that means, have a look at our calculation policy and that will show you a bit more information about that method as well. Children should also be completing a booklet in school. This is our times table booklet. So like I said, in year 2, it's just the 2s, 5s and 10s. So in terms of how you can support your child at home with times tables, the 2 times table is really good because all the numbers are even. So 2, 4, 6, 8, 10. And then that repeats. So we've got 2, 4, 6, 8, and then a 0, and it carries on. And really get your children to try and spot the patterns. They love this. For the 5 times table, teaching your child that the answer will always end in a 5 and a 0 is the big clue. And then for the 10 times table, nice and easy, they all end in 0. So lots of repetition, lots of counting, hit the button, as I say, and times table rock stars are fantastic resources. So that's the end of our presentation. I hope you have found it useful. I am the maths lead, Mrs. Hyde, so if you have any questions or need some support, just let me know and I'll do the best that I can to help you. But thank you so much for joining me for this session, and I will do a separate video for Key Stage 2. Thank you very much. Bye-bye.